Welcome to the Candidate Forum sponsored by the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods at City Hall. I'm Kathy Wells, President of the Coalition. We have been very fortunate in having this arrangement with the city. Staff will record this and broadcast it several times on the city cable TV channel 11 before the November 6th election. To avoid bias, we ask panel members to reside outside Ward 6. Candidates are seated here in ballot order. The members of the question panel are members of the coalition as well as volunteers from the Clinton School of Public Service. Each candidate will have a minute to open, a minute to close, a minute to reply to each of our 4 questions. The same question applies to each candidate in turn. For fairness, the one answering first will rotate through the panel. Who gives the first opening statement will not make the first closing statement. Now introduce the panel. Introduce yourselves.
I'm Robert Walker. I'm timekeeper.
I'm Amy B. Stewart, a student at the Clinton School of Public Service.
I'm Annie Abrams, immediate past president of the Coalition of Neighborhoods.
First opening statement, Vicki Hatter.
Good morning or good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're watching. I am running for Ward 6 because it is an exceptional ward. We are one of the most diverse wards. We have 24 neighborhoods, and we need to while I was out canvassing and working with the issues of the Little Rock School District, making sure that our parents' voices was heard. I heard the same concerns with our city leaders. We was feeling that we were not a part of the process and being heard. So therefore, I decided to go ahead and run to where I could bring in more inclusion and bring in your voice. And so we all will have a voice on the city board of directors for the city.
Mr. Becker.
Good morning. I'm Sandy Becker, and I'm running for Ward 6 City Director. I'm running based on 2 concerns. My first concern is youth, as not only their education, but also their support and development. And the second thing I'm running on is quality of life in our neighborhoods. I've lived in the area for over 30-something years. I have a stable presence there. I've worked with different neighborhood associations, with different coalitions, including the West Central Coalition. And I want to be a unifying force in the area, not only for commercial development, for neighborhood development, and support of our residents. Thank you.
Director Wright.
Good morning. I'm Doris Wright, and it has been my honor to serve as the City Director for Ward 6. I have been a resident of Ward 6 for 25 years, and I am a native of Lake Village, Arkansas. I am seeking re-election to my seat on the Board of Directors to continue to move Ward 6 forward. Under my leadership, Ward 6 has thrived. I have developed after-school and summer programs for our youth, job training programs for our young adults, helped to create over 700 jobs, and provided facilities for all residents to enjoy. Over $20 million has been invested in Ward 6 to repair our streets and drainage since 2012, and over 300 single-family homes have been built. Public safety is my #1 priority because I know what it means to be a victim of crime. I am proud to say that as of July 1st of this year, crime in Ward 6 is down by 24.67%. I have a proven track record of getting things done, and as a result, our community has stabilized and our residents are safe. Thank you.
Time. Mr. Rakoff.
Hi, my name's Russ Rakup. I was born here in Little Rock. I'm a graduate of Little Rock Public Schools and a graduate of UALR. I'm a blogger and an activist, and it's time for change on the board, not only in Ward 6, but throughout each ward. We have a bunch of directors that have been there too long and have done nothing for the citizens. The crime in our city, issues with concern of our police department, the racial divide that exists within the police department is a primary concern of mine, as is local control of our school district. These are issues that the board hasn't addressed and must address for Little Rock to move forward. Thank you.
We'll now begin with question 1 from Ms. Abrams, and it will be directed to be answered first by Mr. Becker.
Little Rock police are assigned to community policing on and off, leaving advocates doubtful this approach truly is supported. Do you believe in community policing? And how would you implement community policing?
I do believe in community policing, but also believe that every policeman needs to, in essence, be a community policeman. I'm very aware of budget resources, and I've been at several meetings in which it was discussed why positions were vacant, particularly in police, and when there is when there are issues, community policing has been one of the things that's been shorted position-wise. So I would say the focus need to be more on retraining all police so that their job duties include more than just going around and looking for things that may be wrong or even things that are right, but being more involved in the community. I believe it can't just be just a few policemen whose job is, quote, community policing.
Hit cancel. Thank you, Director Wright.
Thank you. Yes, I do believe in community policing. I believe in the initial concept when it was introduced in the 90s into the city of Little Rock. We introduced it as a part of our alert center concept, where we had alert centers that were in the distressed areas, where police officers were able to get to know the people that lived in the community to try to get that community stabilized. I believe that now that we are on the road to being fully funded and fully staffed in our police department, that we can initiate that component again, and we do need to do that, and I am committed to bringing our community-oriented police back to now what we call neighborhood resource centers.
Thank you. Mr. Raycott?
Yes, I believe in community-oriented policing. Chief Buckner was hired touting that. He told our Racial and Cultural Diversity Commission he would do that. Yet, since he's taken position, he shut that down. And he's often cited the lack of police officers. We currently have more police officers now than we've had in the last decade, and he's yet to reinstitute that program. Part of the problem is that over 68% of the force lives outside of the city of Little Rock, the majority of those being white officers. They aren't part of the community when they don't live in the community, and that's where we have a disconnect. To be a true community police officer or oriented police officer, you have to be a neighbor. You have to join the PTA that your neighbors attend. Your kids go to the same schools. You go to the same churches, belong to the same organizations. And when over half of those live outside of the city, we can't have community-oriented policing.
Thank you. Ms. Hatter?
Yes, I do believe in community policing. And I do believe that it is more than just a philosophy. It is a way of policing and interacting with our city. I don't think that it should only target certain areas. I think it should be throughout the city. And with community policing, it does start with the head of the police department, and it's also adopted by our city leaders. And so I think no matter if we have a strong advocate for community policing as well as a strong law enforcement head, and then we will see issues of conflict between law enforcement and community come down. I do also think that as long as the officer is invested in the community, that makes a huge difference as well. So I have experienced community policing. I have been a part of various law enforcement agencies that have that was a huge part of it. So as Nwada is your next director of Ward 6, and then I will be dedicated to community policing.
Time. Our next question comes from our next panel member.
Scientists just issued the warning that climate change is coming faster than realized. They called on governments and individuals to change habits. Individuals are urged to drive electric cars or use public transit and conduct business by video conference and add to home insulation to cut heating and cooling consumption. The new Nobel Prize for Economics winners examined unintended effects from economic activity and how they affect growth in the long term. If elected, how do you think Little Rock functions will be changed 10 years from now?
Let's start with Director Wright, I think.
Yes, thank you. The city of Little Rock is well on its way to becoming a sustainable city. We have an annual sustainability summit where we bring practitioners together so that we can come up with ideas on how our city can best move forward in the future in the interest of sustainability. We have moved into natural gas for our vehicles. We have some of our electric vehicles within our fleet, and I believe that with our recycling program that we're educating our residents on the need to recycle and sustain our environment. I believe we need to continue that progress, and as the elected representative for Ward 6, I am committed to sustainability.
Cancel. Thank you, Mr. Raycott.
Yes, Little Rock, as it often is behind other communities in central Arkansas. For example, Saline County, if you go to their courthouse, you will see they have outlets for electric cars there. That's in Benton. You go to outside City Hall here or outside the Pulaski County Courthouse, and you won't find that. Little Rock needs to jump ahead of the curve and not be a follower. And I think by making changes on the board, electing individuals who aren't afraid to reach out to other groups, to form coalitions, and we can get these environmental issues worked out. The city has issues with extraterritorial areas that they want to put in treatment plants that dump the treated water into our streams. And they don't voice oppositions to those. That's why it's time for change.
Time.
Thank you.
Cancel. Thank you. Ms. Hatter.
Yes, so as far as going green, this is something that I was raised doing, like as far as being conservative with our energy use, our water use, and recycling. Recycling is not a new concept. However, it is a mental concept to where each resident and each business and government will have to buy into. So as far as doing more public education about the reasons on why we should conserve energy, why we should be a better friend right to Mother Earth is going to go a long ways. A great place to really start it is within our public schools. And so as long as we are teaching our children how to conserve and to recycle and different ways to use modes of transportation like public transportation, and then increasing our public transportation and better partnerships, then that is one way to help.
Mr. Becker.
The question was about 10 years from now, will be different. One of the things I see will be different is we will have more enhanced recycling opportunities. There have been goals that most cities have set that involve reclaiming through recycling so much of the stream of products that come to the city. That has to be increased because we can't keep building landfills. Fortunately, with some of the technologies that have been developed, a lot of the things are getting more efficient. I drove a hybrid Prius for 10 years. And so I've always been interested in conserving resources, not only from an economic point of view, but because it made sense. And more, as technologies develop, we have to be on the forefront of making sure that our citizens have the opportunity to participate and it makes sense to them. There have been cities that have incentives more for recycling, and I see that happening more and more, that we've got to get our citizens more motivated.
Time.
Thank you.
Our next question. Ms. Abrams, I believe?
Sidewalk maintenance by law is the responsibility of the homeowner. Yet many areas of our city lack sidewalks for various reasons. Sidewalks are a part of the city transportation network and required in new subdivisions. Would you budget sidewalk maintenance dollars annually to eventually cover the entire city?
Mr. Rakoff, I believe, starts.
Yes, I believe sidewalks are important, especially if we want to have an effect on the environment. Currently, now, like as Abram said, the developers have to put those in, the owners have to do that, but they're hodgepodge. You can drive throughout the city and see that there will be a sidewalk in one section and not a sidewalk in another. Out in West Little Rock, there's a new construction area that has a sidewalk that there's a 5-foot drop at the end of that. These are concerns that the city has to address, and we can't put that on the back of the developers or the property owners. To be a sustainable city, to be an economical city, to be an environmental friendly city, we have to encourage other modes of transportation, including walking.
Thank you. Ms. Hatter?
Yes, I would budget for it because it is also a safety issue. And so we have to make sure that our residents are safe. Particularly, if we think of just about the Euler area to the Broadmoor area, and then how dangerous that is, and how we have had loss of life there. I think that that is something crucial that we have to do, and we cannot afford to pass the buck on whose responsibility it is. As far as the homeowners maintaining those sidewalks, that is what we have ordinances for. But at the same time, I think that the city needs to take leadership on that and be more proactive instead of reactive. So yes, I am committed to that, and I think that my experience working with environmental agencies and public land use, then I'm able to have a forward way of thinking and better understanding of how to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
I believe that public resources should be put into sidewalk development and maintenance. But I also believe that we need to find other resources to help our neighbors when we do have problems with sidewalk repairs. I'm a great believer that you do everything you can with city resources, but then you look for private resources, where you look for resources from the community, you look for volunteers, you do all the things that's necessary to solve the problem. But yes, city resources first, but then let's put all the other resources together. We need to be where we are providing solutions. Not all solutions can be paid for completely with tax dollars, so we need to find those other resources, and we need to get the job done. Thank you.
Cancel. Thank you. Director Wright?
Thank you. In response to the question, yes, I would budget for sidewalks in the City of Little Rock's overall budget. However, I also think we need to revise our policy, because I do not believe that should be the responsibility of a homeowner to maintain a sidewalk in front of their homes. I believe that we have policies that are outdated in our subdivision policies, and we need to make every effort to put the resources toward that. And if that means that we have to work with our developers to come up with a comprehensive plan when they're designing subdivisions, then we need to do that. But the maintenance of the sidewalk should not fall to the homeowner. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question?
Little Rock rental housing is 44% of all units, yet the rental inspection program lags far behind, getting to only 1,500 units a year when that needs to be 6,000 inspections each year. What would you do to improve this program?
I believe we start with Ms. Hatter.
Yes, so with this program, it is an opt-in for our developers and our property owners. And so the first thing would be to enforce the ordinances that are in place. I understand renting because I am a renter. So making sure that our renters have renter rights into where they are not forced to live in homes that have mold and bacteria growing that is creating health issues. I think that the city is able to be a leader on this, especially right since we are the only state, no one in the United States that do not protect our renters. And I don't think that it is something that like we need to pass the buck to the state. We need to be working with the state instead of working as silos and passing the buck along. And so I would be
Time.
committed to working with the state as well to help change laws.
Mr. Baker?
I believe that we need to create a situation, and while not a person lives in their own home, or while not they're renting, they have a safe place that is affordable. And that underlines everything. There's some things that are governed by state law. There's some things that are governed by local ordinance. But let's go back to the knowledge base, okay? For instance, if we have roughly 44% that are, then we ought to be able to more quickly identify them. We need to redo the resources we have so that we can more correctly monitor those. Technology is changing. I'm a fan of correct technology. We need to have some ways to where it is not that all the units can be correctly inspected, problems can be resolved, and a win-win situation can be created that's fair to all. But we have to have affordable and adequate housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Wright next.
Thank you. Regarding our rental policy, I believe that policy needs to be revised. First of all, we need to hire more code officers and pay them a comparable salary so that we can retain them. We need to revise the policy so we're inspecting every 3 years because we can't do that 6,000. We also need to consider hiring a subcontractor so that we can catch up and get ourselves back in compliance with our current policy. And we need to take the dollars that we receive from the business licenses that renter property owners are required to pay our code enforcement officers. And we have already started a review of what we're doing now to see how we can improve it. And I'm committed to making sure that we do improve it and that we raise these salaries so that we can retain our staff.
Thank you. Mr. Raycott?
Thanks. This is a timely topic. In fact, I have a blog post coming out this next week about this. I've been doing some research and making some FOI requests. We don't have enough rental inspectors to cover the properties we have. We need to hire more. We need to pay them a compatible wage to keep them there. We also need to tighten up our procedures. This week we discovered a property owner that has had property for 20 years and never had an inspection because he's not listed as a rental person with the city. Director Wright is part of the problem. She's taken money from the Arkansas Realtors Association, PAC, that fights equitable landlord-tenant laws, as several of the other directors have. You can't be part of the solution if you're part of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to go to closing statements. Since we opened with Ms. Hatter, we're going to start the closing round with Mr. Becker.
Thank you. My name is Sandy Becker, and I'm running for Ward 6 City Director. I'm running based on that I have several qualifications and experience that I believe is relevant. I'm a certified public accountant. I have experience working with as a director in local government. I'm used to city operations. I have experience with working with neighborhood organizations at the neighborhood association level as well as citywide. I have experience working with youth groups. I have been a mediator and a person who tries to solve problems, and I have a long history of being able to resolve issues. So I'm asking you to send me to this position as City Director, Ward 6. Thank you.
Director Wright next.
Thank you. When I began serving as City Director for Ward 6, it had a negative reputation. That is no longer the case. This change has occurred because of the vision I had of what we could become and the strategy that I have implemented to make it happen. The Ward 6 Transformation Plan was implemented in 2012. It included an analysis of our strengths and our challenges, and it outlined a series of steps to improve our image and overall quality of life. We have rebranded Ward 6 as West Central Little Rock and taken control of the narrative about who we are. Do we have issues? Yes, we do. Every community has its challenges, but it takes strong leadership that is logical, strategic, focused, and collaborative to bring everyone together to address the issues. I have proven that I am that strong leader, and I'm asking the voters to keep the momentum going, vote right for Ward 6, and re-elect me, Doris Wright.
Time.
Thank you.
Mr. Raycott?
Yes, most of the citizens in Little Rock know me through my activism and my blogging and my frequent trips to the lectern out here addressing concerns with the board. As a citizen, I've been able to make significant changes in the city. Stipulations for the $5,000 payments to recruits, transparency issues, unblocking of social media by the city and the police department. And if you want a vocal voice for Ward 6 on the board, you know who to elect. We must have change on the board for the city to move forward, and vote for anyone but Ms. Wright. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hatter?
Yes, I have been doing public service ever since my youth days, whether it was organizing our youth around issues that was pertaining to them, whether it was organizing and helping with locally and then with our school district issues, and being one of the voices right for the communities on that. I have worked at the federal level all the way down to the local level, as well as nonprofits. Then I understand how to partnership, how to build relationships. Ward 6 is one of the most diverse wards. We have 24 neighborhoods, and all neighborhoods are not feeling represented. Then we need to make sure that we have a leader that do not mind and is not afraid to go and interact with our residents. I have been an advocate, and then I believe in working across governmental lines. And then if that includes working with them to help create bills to change ordinances, that's what I'll do.
Thank you so much. This concludes the Ward 6 Forum, sponsored by the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods. It will be broadcast several times on the city cable channel. We will pass on the schedule when the city staff prepares it. Thank you again.
Thank you.